Hi, everyone. Welcome on the Good Data Morning Show.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, I'm George.
And I'm Deanna.
Now, it's been, 8 days now since we've started 2021? So,
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so happy New Year, everybody. This is the first show of 2021 of the Good Data Morning Show, and we have a wonderful guest that hopefully is going to be here on a recurring basis because he's always delivering amazing value. And we're going to talk about a topic that's really dear to a lot of people's hearts. A lot of people have this question, and a lot of organizations have this question. But before we go into the topic, Diana, if you do the honors.
I have the pleasure. So our guest today has an incredible energy, great humor, and is a wealth of knowledge. And no wonder he has such a huge following. So just for today, we have more than 150 people signed up, which is amazing. And I'm very grateful for each and every one of you who is listening and watching today. Our guest is an artificial intelligence pioneer with more than 34 years proven track record of dramatic ROI improvement. So this is why we should be listening to what he has to say. He's a guest lecturer at Johns Hopkins University and University of Maryland, Chief Data Officer, Board of Directors for Gartner, Evanda, DC region. Just to name a few of his clients, we have IBM, Audi, Citicorp, United Health, Mercedes, and of course, many more. The thing is, when I grow up, I want to be like him. Everyone, please welcome Scott Clendaniel.
Woo! Hey, guys.
Good, how are you?
Scott, welcome.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, too. But based on how New Year is going in the United States, I've decided that I want to end my 7-day trial and ask for a refund. So I'm just saying,
How is that going?
Oh, other than the country coming apart at the seams and, doing awesome. So let's change to something more cheery, shall we?
Yes, let's do that.
And I know we're going to talk about how to design, how to implement a successful data analytics.
Oh, you didn't tell me it had to be successful. Oh, come on. No, just.
That's the key there.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what's missing from a lot of strategies out there. So,
well, if anyone knows, it's you, Scott. So we're counting on you.
Because I am older than dirt. And at this point, I have messed up everything that can possibly be messed up. So I am hoping that as I present some information, if nothing else, you guys can avoid some of the issues I ran into. So can everybody see the magic slides?
We can right now. I just want to say one thing.
Sure.
That we do have people from all over the place. We have Giovanna from Milan. Hello. We have Greg from Greenwich. We have Satya from India. And Redwan from Paris. Ahmed, Kuala Lumpur. And they just keep on coming. You have a lot of fans all over the world. Barcelona. Hi, Alex. And all over, and Happy New Year, everybody, and thank you so much for coming in. And yes, we are all eager to learn from Scott.
Egypt. Woo.
Yeah. Tehran, Florida, Egypt, Scotland.
But one from Havre de Grace, Maryland.
And Vancouver. Hi, Katie.
Hi, Katie.
Good to see you. All right. Scott, the floor is yours, and we might interrupt you.
Please do. And yeah, go ahead and interrupt with questions as we go, and we'll see how far we get. I am going to work with the dynamic duo interviewing me currently to make slides available at the end. We'll figure out how to do that, okay?
Sounds great. We'll make it happen.
All right, here we go. All right, so this is creating and implementing an analytics strategy. And George was kind enough to do a survey based on, he had asked me what type of topics we might want to cover. And I had come up with a list of 4. And this was like far and away the one that was most interesting to folks. So that's why we picked this. As a side note, if you guys have ideas for other things you would like us to cover, if you would please say so in the chat, that would be fantastic. All right, so my promise to you in terms of this presentation is trying to give you some options for getting practical. These are tips that are designed for the political realities of the organizations we live in. Sometimes analytic strategies look great on paper. They're really hard to put into place. Sometimes they're too difficult to get on paper in the first place, and it can be an uphill battle. So this is designed to be less theoretical and more sort of step-by-step, look over the shoulder, how we might go forward. So one of the questions that I always want to know when someone's presenting to me is, yeah, great, guy's here, he's going to talk, woohoo. But where have these tips actually been tested? Who has actually provided some credence to this? And the good news is for a long time, I was involved in consulting. I did consulting for 16 years. And some of the different places you've probably heard of, some you may not have, but Booz Allen, Mercedes, Dell, St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, the FDIC during the banking crisis, Los Angeles Times, Citicorp, Certegy, Ameritrade. So a lot of different industries. So one of the great things that happened when you have a career in consulting is you get to see a lot of different organizations. And by the way, nobody has clean data. Nobody has a perfect strategy. No one has the penultimate method. You learn and pick up tips as you go. And there's a great quote from Teddy Roosevelt, which goes something along the lines of, do what you can with what you have, where you are right now. So regardless of where you are in your analytics journey, I'm going to try and do my best to help you out. So let's talk about a general problem in the industry, and one of the ones that is near and dear to my heart. All right, so you see all these great articles. This is an old one about the promise of profitability. And Nucleus Research did a study, and they said the average analytics return was 900 to 1,200%. And I just don't know of a whole lot of other activities you can engage in that can get that type of ROI. I mean, that's just sort of mind-boggling. Now, Business Wire did a research with a bunch of stats on here in terms of what the cumulative annual growth rate, or CAGR, is over 33% per year. Incremental growth, somewhere $75.54 billion. Year-over-year rate for 2019 was estimated 29.43%. We don't have 2020's results in here. So you see a lot of these stats. It's like, wow, that's pretty impressive. And then you see other articles by different folks. Now, this is from a company called Tractica. And they said that the total market for global AI, and by the way, folks, when people talk about artificial intelligence, for the most part, they're talking about analytics. Don't get too bogged down with machine learning versus data science versus artificial intelligence versus analytics. For the moment, let's just call it all analytics. And if you really want details about how the ones separate out, it's a great way to start a bar fight among folks who work in the analytics field to try and come up with barriers. But if you're really interested, we go into that later. All right, artificial intelligence is the future of growth, with a great big headline. Okay.
And that seems to be fueling more and more this year.
Oh my goodness, woohoo! Yeah, they're one of the secrets apparently that people found to marketing since about 2019 is take the worst idea you can possibly think of and add the phrase "with artificial intelligence" and sell that. and some, why is Excel? Isn't that AI? Well, maybe, I don't know. Dog food with artificial intelligence. Stones for your front lawn with artificial intelligence. I don't really know what the artificial intelligence is doing there, but wow, the articles are amazing. All right, so what's the problem here? Well, Gartner indicates that 84% of all analytics initiatives don't get implemented, especially predictive models. I don't know of a whole lot of fields who can survive on that level of success. VentureBeat had a similar article. There are articles all over the place that are saying these headlines are all well and good, but why isn't anything actually happening? And part of the issue is the fact that you have to have the right culture for this to be able to take off. We're going to talk about this as we go through. Mm-hmm. But culture eats strategy for breakfast. That's a Peter Drucker quote. So one of the things we all have to be aware of is if your organization doesn't have an advocate for analytics and AI, you are going to be in a world of pain. So it's great to see all these headlines, and these are the ones we all put in our presentation when we ask for funding. But if you only have a 16% success rate, you're in a world of trouble. So what's the solution to this sort of issue? And I'm going to jump straight to 2 slides that came from Accenture. I wish they were mine. They are not. All Accenture, guys. So make sure that they get credit for this. But one of the things that I really like in terms of how they lay out their strategy is they break it into 3 categories. All of us are responsible for helping to create outcomes for our organizations. If you don't have an outcome and you've created the greatest analytics in the world, it's not helpful. It doesn't matter. You might as well be sitting in your cubicle playing guitar, because that's all the value that you're going to give back to your organization. So you really need to work on the outcomes and work backwards. So the way they've done it, again, data to information, information to insights, insights to outcomes. Where the wheels tend to fall off in this is getting to the outcomes. If you are not allowing your outcomes to come to the fore, you've got a problem. Now, I got a question for George and Deanna. You ready?
Yes.
Yep.
How many dashboards have you seen that actually tell you what to do? Not sales are up or down, not risk is up or down, but the step you should take next is. And let's ask the audience if we can.
Well, let's do that. And I would say for me, maybe if I'm optimistic, I would say maybe 1 in 10.
Yep.
What do you think, Deanna?
I don't remember seeing one, actually.
Yeah.
Well,
So Deanna, 0 for 10.
Yeah, and this is one of the challenges. There's a huge problem in telecommunications and cable. It's called the problem of the last mile, which is getting a power grid or a cable grid together is fine. Where the wheels tend to come off is getting that last mile from an individual station into a person's home. We have the same problem in analytics. We can't seem to get past the last mile in terms of actually getting to the outcomes. Are we getting any feedback?
Yes, we are. Let me just put up the comments here.
Awesome. I can't see them, so you have
Nalini is saying not too many. Ken from Scotland is saying 0. Not too many from Alex, to be honest. Vanessa, it's rare. Carlo, the dashboards I've seen tell us what has happened.
Right.
Yes, yeah, they are insightful. And Donabelle, isn't it because there could be many different steps that could be taken to solve the problem?
It could be, but here's my issue. If you aren't figuring out what the person is going to be able to do with the dashboard before you create the dashboard, why are you building the dashboard? And we'll come back to that in a minute. All right, so just keep that in the back of your mind as we go through. Now, again, have I mentioned that this is actually from Accenture? Okay, we have covered that about 9 times now. They indicate that it's about 2 to 3 year migration to a fully implemented operating model. Now, if I get struck by lightning before I finish this presentation here this morning, if you take these 2 slides, you will have most of the pieces you need to lay out a successful model. So actually, I think I'm going to turn off my, no. This is what you need. These are the key pieces. Follow this. Now notice they start on the left-hand side with an operating model design, which is capabilities assessment, what can you do, a model framework, and a rollout plan. The second group in green is initial rollout and stakeholder buy-in. Now here's another great way to completely flub up your analytics plan, is to sit in an ivory tower and to come up with a 100-page document on what you think your stakeholders want to have, and then present it to them. Ta-da! Remember those terrible reality shows that used to be all over television, like The Swan, and you take this poor person and you say, your clothes are wrong, you're overweight, you need plastic surgery. Just horror shows, in my opinion. But the big element was before the last commercial break. Coming next, the answer, and we reveal the Swan. Okay, great. Don't do that. It works for reality television. It's terrible to do in organizations. You need to take the end users along on the journey as you're putting this together. If you don't, I can just about guarantee failure. People support what they create. I say that again. People support what they create. If they haven't been involved in how you're pulling this plan together, and you try and do the swan reveal at the end, you're in a world of trouble. Notice the last piece is implementation at scale. Silicon Valley has gone off the rails. Well, scale this, scale that, scale the other thing. Everything needs to be in Python. Nope, that doesn't scale even enough. We've got to put it in Spark. Nope, we need to get it down to the rails. We're now going to code it in C because it scales better. All this type of craziness. Hold off on the scale. Scale's important when you get to that point, but make sure that you've met people's needs first. So I'm going to run through a whole laundry list of tips on how to make this happen. Do we have any questions at the moment?
We do have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Well, first of all, you're getting a lot of positive feedback from Alberto is just mentioning the energy from Scott is awesome, and it is always awesome. Now, Donabelle promises that she might be able to be a devil's advocate on some of this, so I asked her to please do and share her thoughts on this. No,
I don't know if anybody remembers the church lady. I'm really old, but yeah.
Roberto is saying that most of us are chief dashboard officers, and I wonder what you mean by that, Roberto. If it means that you do live and breathe dashboards, or that's really what you're relying on there.
And can I ask a question of Roberto while you have his question up?
Yeah.
All right. How many times have you gone to create a dashboard and it ends up being like 9 panels long? Oh, could you also add this? Oh, and I'd like to see number of days that end in a Y. I'm like, really? Okay. Who suffers from the problem of it's supposed to be a dashboard, as in a car dashboard? And I just want 93 metrics on there. What's the problem? Who runs into that issue?
Oh, I mean, we do for sure. And, it's sort of the curse that you can keep adding things and you can keep scrolling down and down as you please. But then again, it's a lot better than having those dashboards on paper. And some people still ask for that to be printed. And that can be good. But nowadays, when you do have that interactivity, you can definitely add a second layer of information there that could be useful. Yes, but sorry.
Is our devil's advocate back?
I think so. We do have a lot of questions and information here. So Donabelle is mentioning, I think there is value in looking at the overall picture. Whoever is creating the dashboard will not have the same business acumen, let's say the CEO or the VP, etc. So I don't think that's on the devil advocate side, but that's a good comment overall. So maybe what Donabelle is trying to say here, that and she does have a follow-up comment. I definitely think the dashboards have to be more intentional, but the next step should be a collaborative process. So maybe it's the idea that maybe you do start at a macro level with a lot of options, but then you do have the option to go into depth or seeing a dashboard that's a bit more relevant to your business or your individual needs.
Right, but a good question to ask during that collaborative process is, how do you see yourself using this information?
Mm-hmm.
And let's prioritize by what are the things that you could take action within 20 minutes and make a difference? That's one. Another one, what would blow up your world? Like, what's the disaster scenario? What's the thing that if it happened in your business, like running a website availability? If the website's down all the time, that's pretty much barn burning.
Yeah.
As opposed to click-through rate on link 500, 200, 567. Well, okay, should probably look at that at some point. But if it doesn't blow up your world, or if you can't do anything about it, it should be lower in the hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Lower in the priority.
So we have a follow-up question here.
Okay.
If sales are down, and we do see this in the dashboard, what would or should be the next steps? And Donabelle is mentioning that I definitely see the value in making suggestions on what the next steps are, but as long as people don't box in the solutions.
No, that's fine. And I'll tell you what I tend to do is I ask the user of the dashboard what the next step should be. Remember, we're trying to enable them to do a better job. We're not trying to tell them how to run their world. And that's actually going to be in one of the tips. One of the big reasons why people don't like analytics, and they especially don't like artificial intelligence and predictive analytics, is the fact that they feel like they're going to lose control. The fear of losing control and being told what to do, and they won't say it. You know, they're very reluctant to say that's what their issue is, but check to make sure that isn't it, and allow them to help drive what is going to happen.
So why do you think that is? Do you think that they're going to be disempowered because they don't understand it?
They're afraid that they're not going to be necessary anymore. If I see one more article about how many jobs AI is going to replace, I think I'm going to cry. I have worked on a lot of RPA projects, robotic process automation. I have yet to see anyone lose their job. What tends to happen is they're able to move from the manual work that they hate into something more strategic, or to take on a new type of role, or to be able to do something that involves more people thought, as opposed to, you know, just robotic work.
This is actually great news, especially coming from you, Scott.
There you go.
Scott, we do have a few questions.
Yes.
There's one from Jonathan, and he's asking, would you say that most dashboards or reports end up as legacy in organizations, and how would you avoid that?
Allow people to have 2 screens worth of information. And if they're going to put something new in, require them to take something out and put it in a database. Most of the time you can't enforce that. I'll tell you that right off the bat. And most of the time they're going to say, what do you mean I can't have everything on my dashboard? That tends to be what happens. But if you can start them thinking in that way, that helps a lot to help them prioritize. So in terms of avoiding them from becoming legacy, one of the reasons why things become legacy is because they were never, it's not they were important and now they're not important. It tends to be more, they were never all that important, but some senior executive decided that he needed to know the number of people with one blue eye and one brown eye who bought their product on a Thursday after midnight when the moon was full. And really? Okay. And it ends up going into the dashboard. And then that executive doesn't care anymore and they don't look anymore. I worked with an ad, it was a true story, an ad agency once who had a problem with getting their clients to read the reports that they created for them. So their solution was they were going to create a video to explain what was in the report. Every week, a different video. Needless to say, the client didn't watch the video either. So be careful.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rajendra here is asking, when you design dashboards, should it not be directed towards a person or a group of persons?
No, I think it should be directed at a group or persons, but it should be directed at a group of based on what their true needs are and what they can do with the information. Because what tends to happen is they are terrified that as soon as they put their request in writing, they're going to think of something else and they can't ever find out what the results of that question are. So they try and think of every possible thing they could ever want to know and stick it in the dashboard because they're afraid they're never going to get another shot. So one of the best things to do is to help people figure out how to build their own dashboards or how to take information from a dashboard to make it more useful or to prioritize what they need to know on an hour-to-hour basis versus what they need to know on a month-to-month basis.
All right.
Ready?
Yeah.
We're going to go on?
Yeah. Gives us more.
I love tips and tricks. Sorry. Okay. One of the first things to do is to figure out how people view you and what you do. Love this cartoon. How I see math word problems. If you have 4 pencils and I have 7 apples, how many pancakes will fit on the roof? Purple, because aliens don't wear hats. Okay. So this is where people are starting from. They don't understand what they do. They don't understand why they do it. They don't understand the vocabulary that we use. And yet we're going to tell them how to do their job. This is not a recipe for success. So start with that. All right. The one question that all analytics projects must answer is actually the same. What do we do now? And people are going to fight me on this. I got it. That's fine. But if you're saying what were sales last month, why do we need a report? Well, we need to know what sales last month were. Okay, it might be required for reporting and it might be required for compliance. But what are you going to do with that information? If sales went up, we're kind of happy. But the reason why we need to know where sales were, are we going to have a job next month? So maybe we can stay in our job. Or we're going to get shut down. Or we need to open more sales outlets, or all these types of things. So in essence, all analytics projects at the end kind of point in the same direction to one fundamental question. Great, what am I supposed to do now? If you are not helping people take the analytics to that action step, to the outcomes with what do we do now? And by the way, you don't have to know the answer to what do we do now. They need to know the answer on what do we do now.
Mm-hmm. And maybe you'll get onto this, Scott, but it seems like there's a conflict as well, right? We want to answer what do we do now, but at the same time, people are scared of analytics, AI, because they feel they will be replaced by something else telling them what they should do now.
Yes, but the trick to get around that is have them identify what to do now.
Mm-hmm.
And ask them, what are you going to do with this information? How do you think you're going to implement it? What do you think is going to be helpful? What are some options you have if this particular set of circumstances happened? The point is it needs to be on the pathway to what do I do now? If it doesn't help people make better decisions and take better actions to lead to, yet again, better outcomes, you're in trouble. My lovely wife, Summer Roswald, came up with a quote that I just adore, which is, of course, I adore everything about my wife.
I
I
hope
could
she's
go on
watching.
for hours. Anyhow, focus on outcomes, not output. Meaning, what's going to happen with this? Just because it's on a dashboard, if no one uses the dashboard, it's not helpful. Right. So next one, I identify the problem. This was classic. When I did a lot of consulting on predictive analytics, I had all these folks who would say, we want a cross-sell model. I was like, okay, all right, we need a cross-sell model, cool. I said, well, give me an example of why you would need a cross-sell model. Well, that's easy. We happen to know that hats and gloves are probably sold together pretty often, but they're in different places on the sales floor. So we want to find out if we put hats and gloves next to each other and then offer 20% off, if it would sell more. It's like, okay. So in today's world, people buy the hats and gloves together while they're in different places. Yep. And right now you're charging 100% of retail price for both. Yep. And the cost to redesign the floor and move all this stuff around is pretty substantial. Yep. And if you put this together with an offer of 20% off, you're actually going to have 20% less revenue than you have right now. Yeah, and slowly the light bulb begins to turn on. So you want me to build a model so that you incur a lot of expense to get less revenue. Is that what we're saying? Oh, maybe we don't need the cross model. Maybe it's a response model we need. Sure. Okay, great. This doesn't mean that and I'll tell you what not to do. Toyota came up with the concept of the 5 whys. Ask why, then ask why that, then ask why that. If you do that 5 times, people will hit you over the head with an aluminum bat. Do not use the 5 whys technique. But try and understand at least a little bit what the actual problem is. All right, next tip.
Let me make this bigger. All right.
It doesn't even look all that good when it is bigger, but begin with the end in mind. Stephen Covey wrote the most famous, most popular, and best-selling business book of all time, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Highly recommend it. But if you're thinking about implementation, what are they going to do with the information once they have it? Start with that. And what else do they need to know to be able to implement it? Start with that first and work backwards, rather than, oh, I'm just going to create a dashboard or a report. How are we doing?
So based on the Accenture model, start with that those outcomes, right?
Yes. Outcomes, not output.
Right. All right.
Okay.
Oh.
Now, I'm not going to read all this to you because you can read it yourself. Identify what the needs of the people who are going to have to sign off on the project are. One of the greatest things to start off with when you're doing a project, whose signature are we going to need to put this into place? Find out who those people are. Involve them earlier in the process rather than later. Don't do the big reveal. Don't do the big ta-da. Don't do the swan. If you know, for example, that a model that you're going to be working on, and this happens in compliance and financial services a lot, you could end up working on a model that is against compliance laws in your locality. Better to find that out up front rather than wait till the last minute.
Mm-hmm.
Next tip. For the love of God, please stop calling it data-driven. Oh my heavens. People want to drive. They don't want to be driven.
Mm.
Another one I hate, data literacy. Okay, well, what does that indicate about everyone who hasn't taken your data literacy program? That they're illiterate? You really want to say that to people? You're not winning a whole lot of friends. So insights enabled, data assisted, there are lots of other options. Great article on Project Manager blog about beyond the triple constraint. Here are all the constraints you've got to figure out. Again, start on the front end. What's the method? How sustainable is this? What resources are we going to need? Figure it out on the front end, not on the back end, or you're going to spend a lot of money and not have any results. Enable people, not data. You want the data to be able to help. Now, remember I said that we were going to say later about people don't like to lose control? Well, here's a perfect example of it. No one wants to lose control of their work. No one wants a machine telling them how to do their job. So you have them help define what they want to do with the information. This is a people business, guys. I hate to break it to everybody who thinks that everything should be a number or a scientific research paper or an algorithm. But at the end of the day, the people who hired you are people. The people who implement what you create are people. The people who decide whether you did a good job or not, regardless of what the numbers say, are people. It's people all the way around. Less push, more pull. Classic example, working with salespeople. I'm going to create this fantastic model that's going to tell them who to sell to. You want to tick off a bunch of people in a hurry? Start telling salespeople how to do their job and see how successful you are. That's not going to work, but I'll tell you what can work. You got a group of 15 salespeople, and you happen to know that your incentive plan is exactly the way it should be. It's involving just the right targets. It's going to help the business. The incentive plan is right on schedule. Ask for volunteers to work with you on testing a model where the outcome is their commission. If it's successful, you will not have to convince the rest of the salespeople. They will be beating down your door to get a hold of that model. Why? Because it's in their best interest, as opposed to hoisting it over the top. That's a quick example.
That's a great sales tactic.
Absolutely. All right. Identify goals and guardrails. I don't know who came up with this, but I loved it. But this is completely stolen, so I cannot claim credit for any of this. The goal is where you want to get to. The guardrails are the rules you shouldn't be violating. If you think of this as you're trying to build and implement your analytics strategy, it's really helpful. Remember, people don't want a 1/4-inch drill bit. They want a 1/4-inch hole. And actually, they don't even want a 1/4-inch hole. They just want to hang the darn picture. All right? So stop selling them drill bits. All right. Last one. New product development came up with a great theory called phased gates, which basically says that you're going to come up with an idea, and if the idea makes any sense, then you're going to scope how much time it might have. Then you're going to build a business case, develop it, test it, and launch it. Now, these don't have to be the phases for your project, but you ought to have some sense of what do I need to know before the first decision is made? What do I need to know before the second decision is made, or the second level of sign-off? And if you keep doing this as you go along, you will not end up with the big reveal. How are we doing?
Well said.
Yeah, amazing. You covered all my questions. Scott, I didn't need to say anything during this show. I do have one more, though.
Oh, from a time. Gotta get, no, yes.
From a time perspective, how long does it take to actually implement this? And I know this is a very vague and a very, it depends on the situation question. But do you have any time?
To go from nothing to having a strategy and organization is about 3 years to get it fully implemented. However, that doesn't mean that you can't make an impact for 3 years. You can make an impact really quickly. In a matter of a month, I've seen impact happen.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to sort of break apart. When can I make an impact versus when is it fully done? And it's never fully done, because then people change what the objectives are. So, but that'll get you started.
We do have a few other questions and comments here. I can't put all of them up. They're all lovely, such as Alois. That's saying, loving it, love it.
Yay!
Goal is what to get through. Nice tips. Rajendra saying, brilliant. Scott Clendaniel, whatever you are saying is true in a lot of other areas. Seen some of what you say. That's good.
Good.
Validation there. And Delphine, wow, enable people, not data.
Absolutely.
And Kingsley does agree that begin with the end in mind. Powerful. Thank you, Scott. And
completely
Susan agrees as well.
Covey.
Oh, I'm a big fan of starting with the end in mind.
Yes.
So my question, Scott, is what do you do when you are working for an organization or a department that really doesn't have that goal? They have a vague idea that they want something, but let's kind of just work through it. And that's really why the project starts. It's more exploratory, but you don't have that goal in mind, or they don't, the business doesn't.
I'll give you the wishy-washy consultant answer, and then I will give you the really what you should do answer.
Yeah.
The wishy-washy consultant error is identify what their clear objectives are, find out what the organization is preaching, then work backwards from that. Okay?
Yep.
So there's my consultant error. In reality, take them out to coffee, lunch, whatever else in your hazmat suit or whatever we have to wear in the era of COVID-19. Maybe Zoom would be better actually these days. And you say, what do you think your boss's bonus is based on? Because what I used to ask was, what do you think your annual bonus would be based on? And people go, I don't want to talk about that's confidential information. But when you get them a little bit warmed up, you say, what do you think your boss is? Oh my God, you would not believe my boss. And you're writing down. Because what you really need to do is to get your internal client's boss or external client's boss to sign off on this. And it does wonders to understand for the organization what the true goals are, not what's written on the piece of paper. But it does wonders to open the conversation to really get a better understanding. Then you use that and work backwards. So it might be to increase sales by 10% in the Michigan region because sales are low there, or whatever the target is. That'll help you start. You have to be enabling what they want. You are there to fix a problem. You are there to service a need. You are not there to sing the wonders of analytics from your ivory tower.
That's a very good tip. Now, sorry, I just want to put up a couple of things here. Where are you? So I'm working off another computer, and that's why I'm looking down, just because we had issues right before we went live.
You know, I wasn't sure.
Where is the comment? Come on. And why is it loading here?
Because you're live and you're broadcasting to people and the computer knows. I swear there is a sensor in all of our devices that are like, oh, they're broadcasting?
I know that's when the camera decided to go down.
Absolutely.
For some reason. So we had to switch the computers last minute. So Vanessa's asking, do you have any examples on impact or some quick wins in that first month? And I think there were a couple of questions related to this. If you do have some, what are some quick wins that you could do in the first couple weeks?
Helping people solve whatever their biggest pain point is. You take the pain point, you work backwards. One of the best examples I ever heard of was a company that was hired to do data science for a major oil company. You would recognize their name instantly. And the original problem they came in with was to say, we're trying to find better spots to drill for oil in the ocean. So one of those gigantic oil rigs. And they start going through and they ask the question, and it was like, okay. They noticed that one of the sensors went off and no one was working. So they said, hey, what's going on? Oh, we have a big problem with inventory and trying to manage what pieces are going to be available to the oil rig offshore at certain points. And I said, oh, well, how long are you down for? A month. All right. Well, don't you have sensors on those things? Yep. Well, don't you follow the sensors? Yep. We wait till they're red and then we know the part's broke. Well, what would happen if we were able to predict when the part breaks so that we could order it in advance before it gets to be replaced? $28 million of impact the first year. They completely abandoned where to drill for oil because that did not have the biggest financial impact, actually making sure that the replacement parts were available. Wow. So you need to find out where the pain is. Fix the pain, make the pain go away, and that's how to get the first month impact. But you have to ask them. You can't tell them your biggest point of pain is whatever, because you don't know. You don't live their life. You need to get them to tell you that, and then you'll have the answer to how to make the biggest impact the fastest. Also, stop making everything so complicated. Sometimes you need a deep learning model, but not often. You really don't. So if a report fixes it, do the report. If a decision tree fixes it, use the decision tree, for crying out loud.
As Carol was mentioning, great advice, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yes, and whenever you mention with people finding their own solutions, this is also a coaching concept. When people find their own solution, they feel empowered rather than being told what to do. So they will own.
People support what they create. Make them part of the process, and you'll get much better buy-in.
That's true. And I've seen this a lot of times in data science, data analytics programs where you have brilliant people working on these models, but they're not really engaging with the business to start. Maybe they kind of hear a whisper of an idea. They want to try something. They do it. They create a lot of really great stuff. But then again, something that doesn't fully 100% apply to those business needs and fully understand some of those business requirements and the context.
No more reality shows, no more big reveals.
Great point.
And by the way, real swans, they're nasty. I mean, they're pretty to look at, but have you ever been chased by a swan? Wow.
I haven't had the pleasure.
They're not friendly.
But I can tell you that I'm not fond of peacocks.
There you go.
Something I don't understand.
I don't know. Yeah, it's something about them. Not a big fan.
Males, by the way, who do the showing off. Just Diana, just take your.
This is actually why I think he doesn't like them.
That could be it. I do want to mention, if you don't follow Scott already, definitely please do. I'm sure you do, because that's why you're probably here. But if you got here any other way, make sure you do check out his LinkedIn profile. Follow him.
Can I ask one huge favor of the group?
Mm-hmm.
I have a Twitter account called Strat_AI, STRAT_AI.
Which you can see right here.
Which has been stuck at 19,986 followers for the better part of a month. And I can't get above 20,000. Not that it's bothering me or anything. Excuse me. So if you get a moment, if you would be kind enough to consider following my account, I'd really appreciate it.
Please do. It's right here on your screen. It's an easy click. It's a click away. And I've been following Scott for some time, and he's always providing a lot of valuable content. Yes.
Mostly what I try and share are, on a serious note, mostly what I try and share are tools, cheat sheets, lists of free books, lists of free resources, lists of free MOOCs, that type thing. I also share from other folks. Yep.
AI Miami looks like a good one too, by the way.
What?
The AI Miami
yeah.
Twitter account
Not that I have any
looks
connection
pretty.
with them or anything, but yeah, that'd be a good one too.
There you go. Another source of useful content that you could use.
And thank you guys so much for having me. And for those folks who stuck around and listened to me pontificate for all this amount of time, I really do appreciate it. I really want you to be successful. If there's a way that I can help you, I will try. This stuff is important in terms of helping other people. That's why I'm here. That's why I try and do this thing. So if there's a way I can try and offer my 2 cents, I will. I can't be a mentor for all 40,000 people on LinkedIn. I try, but I will try and answer questions that are within my realm. The other thing that I promise to do is I am famous for, if I don't know the answer to your question, I'm going to say I don't know. Please watch out for folks who think they know everything about data science, AI, and machine learning and instantly come up with an answer. None of us know all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. So I'm very quick, and I hope you will be too, that if an internal or external client says, what's the answer? You don't say, oh, I know it is this when you don't know. Say, let me find out.
Thank you so much. And as this person is saying, brilliant session, very enjoyable too. Thank you so much, Scott, George, and Diana. And we do have a really good news. It looks, David is saying it says 20,000 now.
Yay! Let's celebrate together. Party 150.
Thank you.
So fabulous session. Yes, we will figure out a way to share the slides with all of you. So we'll follow up. This session is available on YouTube too, so we'll probably be able to put a link there as well as a link on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and by the way, let me know, because once you have it on yours, I'd like to upload it to my YouTube channel as well. After you have yours, so you get credit for the SEO and stuff. And thank you all very much.
Thank you, Scott. We appreciate this, and we appreciate you very much.
Thank you so much.
We hope to have you back again.
I'm like a bad penny. I keep turning up. So, you know.
Hey, you know, the bad news is in Canada, we don't have pennies anymore. Just a fun fact there. All right. Well, thank you so much, Scott. Happy New Year, everybody. And we'll see you next week. We're going to see what a successful data catalog looks like. And then we're also going to have a second session next week where we're going to go into storytelling.
Two for one, folks. 2 for 1. You need to sign up for next week's session.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.